Hello, I am back and I want to just complete what I started speaking about Sagittarius in the previous video because it is so much in me that I want to let it out. And though my thoughts are not very clearly formed, but I will try to do my best to communicate what I am really trying. And I think I should just adjust this camera a little bit. Thank you so much. So last time we were experiencing Sagittarius full moon, and then we were talking about the themes of Gemini and Sagittarius. I emphasize this all the time that all the signs which are in pairs and opposite to each other are integrated into each other, which means that signs of Gemini and Sagittarius are integrated into each other when we look at it. So what I was also saying is that Gemini is Gemini because it has a heart of Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is Sagittarius because it has a heart of Gemini. But because right now we are in the Gemini season, what we are right now experiencing is the expansiveness of the Gemini archetype with the heart of Sagittarius. And in this one particular theme that I really want to touch upon is that of codependency, because I personally associate codependency a lot with Sagittarian archetype. Not codependency per se, but the action of separating oneself out of codependence and into an individual self is what I see as something that the archetype of Sagittarius does. You see, the zodiacs from Libra to Pisces, in my understanding, are the archetypes of mirroring. Okay, they are archetypes of other. They are archetypes of in which the consciousness understands itself while interacting with the other, which could be everything outside of self. So for me, myself is what is inside of me and what is my reality. However, it is a very different thing when I am in interaction with someone else relationally, like with my environment, with the people around me, with animals, with plants and everything. So I think the other consciousness is what Libra to Pisces journey is all about, and the journey from Aries till Virgo is the journey of the self-consciousness, and the journey from Libra to Pisces is the journey of other consciousness. What is Sagittarius? In my understanding, what is happening for Libra is that point where through the element of air there is just an observation of the other reality of whatever is outside. So it is a very detached observational energy. When it comes to Scorpio, what is happening there is that the other is now being looked at from distance for too long, and now at the Scorpio we begin to completely merge. So this is the point where the detachment doesn't work, or detachment is done with, and now we are ready to mingle with the other, combine with it, and in the process lose oneself in it so that the other can be experienced in that process of mixing. What happens with Sagittarius, which is the zodiac which follows Scorpio, is that is where after the merging now the self has to separate. And this is why I say that Sagittarius is about wisdom, Sagittarius is about traveling, Sagittarius is about distance, Sagittarius is about individual freedom. Why? Because this is the sign where first of all, you were just looking at the other reality. This is Libra. Then you mixed with the other reality, that is Scorpio. And then the action of separating after mixing, it is a very different process than Libra, because Libra has not mixed yet. And Sagittarius is which is now gonna separate itself and find itself again as different. So it is kind of counter codependency. It is something that will separate, it will find its boundaries, it will find its own definition, and that is exactly where Sagittarian wisdom comes, because it has learned to separate itself, it has learned to find itself after being lost in something else. And Sagittarius is also fire element. Sagittarius is also, we have heard a lot about how Sagittarius is about traveling and Sagittarius is about going to foreign lands. My understanding is that after the mingling of Scorpio, the consciousness which finally can separate from this is a fire element which wants to separate and move away from it. So I think Sagittarius is that energy which is going to long distances, which is going to foreign lands, which is going to far off distances in search of itself away from being mixed. Okay, so that desire to go and conquer other lands is first and foremost the desperation that takes one, that one feels, and all of us feel this, is to find oneself when there has been too much of intermixing with other consciousness or with the other people. So in a way, Sagittarius represents a breaking down of codependency. This is that point where finally, like in the teenage years, or when we are on our healing journey, and we finally have this point where we start learning how we are enmeshed with other people, how we are emotionally completely consumed in other people. And then in that healing journey we start drawing boundaries as adults, and then we start separating ourselves, which also happens when we are teens. So whatever kind of themes of separating and forming one's own identity have been left have been left incomplete in teenage years, are also the themes which will again come back in adult years when we are healing, or when we are either with awareness or with unawareness. This process of separation, where the Sagittarius archetype is constantly kicking inside of us to find separation after being mingled, through movement, through distance, through exploring something which is so different from what is familiar, from what we know, from, see, in our culture, in our family, in our own society, we find ourselves very mixed. It is very difficult for us to imagine a life where all these familiarities don't exist, and yet there is a version of us which exists, which is completely away from this familiarity. What happens when we leave the house that we were living in, when we leave the country that we are living in? It is a very, very big process of alienation, and it is this archetype in us which actually something which finally which makes us leave home, and say, like, I want to go out and explore. Yes, this is that archetype, this is that adventure energy, this is that energy of that desperation of finding self after being in a mixture with other. So right now, I personally have been feeling this theme of codependency a lot. But how I feel this codependency theme when I'm in a Scorpio energy and when I'm in Sagittarius energy is very different. When I'm in the Scorpio energy, it feels like an intensity of being in something and staying with it, Scorpio is an energy which wants you to merge and then stay there, and be with the discomfort of losing yourself, be with the discomfort of being intermingled with someone, and being very vulnerable in not knowing who you are because you're so mixed. And that is where that consciousness is something which we gain, which is the consciousness of intimacy, which is the consciousness of mixing and knowing. However, when it comes to Sagittarius is this feeling of I'm mixed, yes, but I'm also different, I'm also separate, and I can be separate. So Sagittarius energy, when it has kind of completed the journey of Scorpio, is when it can stay in connection and yet stay separate. So this is the energy where we are talking about that you have relationships which are deep, you have relationships which are emotionally open, and then still you are individuating at your own level, you're independent, you are finding yourself, you have wisdom which is about your experience and everything, and you are kind of free. Whereas if the Scorpio journey is not complete, or the Scorpio consciousness is not complete, and still you are doing Sagittarius, then what happens is that this Sagittarius freedom of movement can sometimes build on emotional avoidance. So you are right now moving away to other territories, or moving far away, or in movement, not because you feel connected, but because you want to avoid what this emotional intensity of Scorpio brings for you. Yes, so there are two ways in which this movement away will happen, and it is a very relational energy. Okay, so this is when it is more healthier, is what I think. It is more healthier, then you are able to handle the intensity of being in relationship with other people, and then you are secure enough in your place that you are with people, and you are dependent on them, they are dependent on you. There is interdependence, and it is very much there, and there is a lot of security, and you are able to express your emotions, and there is so much security that now you are feeling free to kind of drift off, and you are feeling safe enough to kind of drift off and find your own compass and your own direction and your own this. And in this process you will gain wisdom how you did this process. Okay, or how you found yourself. In fact, if you look at it, what is wisdom? Wisdom ultimately is, I mean, in all traditions, when has wisdom ever come into being? Wisdom has always come into being when people have found themselves. When people have been in a place and they are able to kind of sit with themselves or travel to new places or be in relationships or let go of relationships. This is where usually people find wisdom, where insight happens and everything. Yes, so Sagittarian archetype is about wisdom because it emerges when a person separates. The second the second position that I was talking about is that when you are separating, but you are separating from a place of woundingness, yani ki, which means that you are creating distance, but this distance is being created as a part of emotional avoidance. So you might either in this what is happening, that you're not able to sustain relationships, so you kind of move away because you can't sustain it. Or it could be happening that you have a relationship but it is not emotionally deep at all. But so in order to avoid the discomfort that comes with being emotionally close to someone, you drift away and you are in that direction finding yourself. Any kind of movement away will be some kind of wisdom that will come to you, but it will then determine how your relationship to possibly Scorpio archetype is, which is also very important for Sagittarius. Now this is very complex because Sagittarian energy sits right next to Scorpion energy, and it is sitting right next to Capricorn energy. So I understand that Sagittarius energy has a lot of Capricorn and Scorpion energy in itself also. Okay, and in the same way, Gemini has a lot of Cancerian as well as Taurian energy in it as well also, and it is very much integrated with its counter opposite, which is the Sagittarius energy. So what does it mean to become a Sagittarius? Becoming a Sagittarius or embodying a Sagittarian energy in us, and I think all of us need this archetype, because if you're not able to integrate this archetype, we either go into emotional avoidance or we become too homey. Okay, we become too much stagnant when we are not able to leave our familiarity or spaces of familiarity. And when it is excessive of Sagittarius, it might be that you are not able to, many people have heard that, oh, Sagittarian person, they are so flirtatious. Oh, Sagittarian person, they are always going to be traveling. They're always such freedom loving people that they won't ever be around. So Sagittarian, when in that spectrum, and when it is on this extreme, it will be very free and it will always drift away from everything. And when it is on this side where the Sagittarian energy is not enough integrated, then there will be this person who will be stagnant. There will be this person who will only stay home, who will only be in familiar situations, and who will not kind of step out of their comfort zone. So why Sagittarius is also about wisdom, because when Sagittarius archetype really gets activated, we become that person who's able to step out of relationships. We become that person who is able to step out of familiarity of home. We are able to step out of the familiarity of our culture, our own country, our own state. So in that way, Sagittarian energy in that way is very is an energy which moves the body in the long distance. Now, as I said, that Sagittarian in itself has a Gemini integrated in it. So how is that happening? It is because the Gemini duality, which is there, when Sagittarian archetype actually gets enhanced, it is able to finally connect the duality that exists in it due to the Gemini. Gemini is about duality, but when Gemini is not integrated, then duality exists in separation. So you have black, you have white, but they don't have a connection. They're everywhere. Okay, you can see black and white because that is how duality happens. But when the Gemini heals, you can see how being separate has a connection to it. And in the same way, when this happens, that when your Gemini is healed, that you can see the black and white together as part of something one and whole, and why it is so nicely existing together is when Sagittarian also heals, because Sagittarian itself has this Gemini integration in it, and then this is where the Sagittarian is finally like, I can be intermingled and I can be separate. That is when it is able to handle this duality, that I can be with and I can also be far away. And so it is in that sense, I mean, it is a never ending cycle where the Gemini has an integrated Sagittarius, Sagittarius has an integrated Gemini, and I think layer by layer, layer by layer, layer by layer, it keeps on getting integrated the more you work with these energies. For right now, for example, how I am looking at my own life is that I have really struggled with codependency, and I'm finally feeling in this place that, and till last year also, I had a lot of anger in me, because when I was really trying to draw my boundaries, I used to feel that I have to end this relationship for me to exist. And I did end up ending a lot of relationships because I could not tolerate my own independence in relationships, or in certain relationships which I was part of. However, now I feel this more security growing in me, and maybe it has grown because I have actually been able to re-emphasize on some boundaries in my head or in my entire being. Is that right now I feel that no, I feel secure enough that I'll be able to handle what this relationship requires of me, as well as keep on moving on in my direction. And this is where I do not intermingle so much. I am able to separate. I'm able to be, in these emotionally uncomfortable situations of dependency, of frustration, of having difficult dialogues. And then this in itself doesn't require so much of me that I lose my own anchor. I am still there with it. Oh god. I am not sure. I have been thinking how to articulate all these things that keep on coming to my mind. Right now, also when I was speaking, my throat is almost feeling like, my voice has become hoarse. It's almost like I was finding it such a task to be able to say all this, because it is such a complex topic. It's such a complex topic when you want to talk about it in this integrated manner of this being related to this, being related to this. Okay, I can ignore these things. I mean, I can, and I cannot make this video. But then I am also right now in this place where I am realizing that I don't want to keep all this inside of me. I mean, the more it gets out of me is also a way in which it will get more refined. I am not sure who's gonna see my videos or not gonna see my videos, but I feel it is for my own existence. It is very important for me to say these things. And right now, when I'm saying these things, right by making this video, my voice went from being very uncertain, then becoming very choked and very hoarse. I mean, I could feel my voice shaking in between. And then right now, by the end of it, as I have been able to articulate, as I've been able to put that into form, I feel so much lighter. My words are flowing right now in this very very excellent and very very flowy way, that I'm like, like I've put something. I mean, it's a relief. In between, I was feeling like I was gonna collapse. So weird. I really felt like I'm gonna collapse. Like I cannot hold my voice in one place. And yes, this was a very important video that I really wanted to make about Sagittarius. And I don't think I have to resolve this in any way. I think I just wanted to touch upon it, and I'm not sure. And I hope that I was able to carry a few of you with me in this entire zigzag wavy discussion. And if it resonated with you, if you felt something with it, please do comment if you want to say something, or if it makes sense to you. I personally, if you have seen my page also, I have written there towards wholeness, Sampurnta ki or. My aim for making videos is because I really think wholeness is one. If anybody asks me what is the purpose of life, I would say wholeness. I would say that it is all about being able to bring together as much as possible in one being, so that that being can exist in this bliss of wholeness, and is able to, in that, because of that bliss of wholeness, they are able to experience the suffering of life as naturally, and really just be with everything that human experience brings for all of us. And which is why I think archetypal healing, archetypal understanding and exploration in ourselves, in our psyche, in our process, in our self is so important. And that is why I work with archetypes. And if you want to be how I do it is through shadow work. And if you are also interested in shadow work and want to explore your archetypes, or want to explore your inner energy and the relationship that you have with archetypes, then you can obviously reach out to me on Instagram. My page is a sovereign mystic again on Instagram, and you can reach out to me, DM me for session, and we can meet, and then we can take this process ahead. Thank you so much for listening till now. Okay, I hope this reaches some people who might, feel informed by this. Thank you so much. Like, comment, subscribe, and see you soon next time.